Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. I grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode we'll be going over the roadmaps again, and we'll be more looking at essentially what is to come and what the goods and bad points of all of them, essentially. But as always, we do have the weekly news to get into. So we have Strewn, the Zakali Elders, and Aristar as your weekly world bosses. They're located in Onaran Plains, Zaralak Caverns, and the Emerald Dream. I've got to remember them because it's quite tough to remember, not going to lie. The Zakali or the Zaralak Caverns I actually struggled to remember because I just didn't do much content in there. So, you know, it is what it is. But, yeah, essentially, those are your world bosses for the week. We have Burning Crusade Time Walking and Pet Battles as your weekly bonus events for the week. Time Walking in Burning Crusade, you can get reputations, you can get mounts, you can get multiple different things. So, with your Time Walking badges, so make sure that you go and do that if you want. And Pet Battles, your pets gain 50%, I think, increased XP when you do Pet Battles. So it's nice to get some Pet Battles up there, and if you want to sell any, you can certainly do so to make a little bit of gold. Deepwing Dunk is your brawl for the week. Essentially, you have 3 different orbs, and you have to transport these orbs into the enemy's base, and kind of like basketball, you dunk them for 10 points, or you just throw them into the hoop essentially for 5. Very simple game mode, but it is very fun and a nice little take on the different, what do you call it? The different battleground that it is, essentially. And then we have the Mythic affixes for the week: Incorporeal, Spiteful, and Tyrannical. Incorporeal, you just need to CC some of these enemies. Spiteful, when mobs spawn, or when mobs die, they spawn a Spiteful Shade. And these Spiteful Shades fixate, you simply just let them die off on their own, or you can just cleave them down, essentially. Just as long as they don't hit you, it's all good. And Tyrannical, the bosses and the mobs that they summon have 20% increased health and damage, so make sure you bring a talent build that can accommodate for that. So, the roadmaps, we went over them a bit in the Wednesday episode, but we're going to really be deep diving into what the biggest points of these are. So firstly, let's start with the retail roadmap. So this is your Dragonflight roadmap. We obviously have the new patch very soon, the 10.2.5 patch very soon. This includes a lot of the followers dungeons, dragon riding world ride, which will be really cool, a new Gilneas questline where we reclaim it, epilogues for the Dragon Isle, so this is like kind of winding it down and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. And this is what you would expect for a end of patch, or end of expansion patch, essentially. The biggest thing that people are weirded out about is this 10.2.6 patch. Now, they specifically said that there's going to be no pirates, but there is a black flag with skull and crossbones. Now, a lot of people speculate that there's going to be something a bit different here, and they've never done like a bigger 10.2.6 patch, like in between a patch. So I'm not really too sure what this is. I don't think they'll add any new content or anything like that. I think this is more of a reference to and a joke to what everyone was speculating in the past when they saw like the Travelers what is it? Travelers Traders or whatever it's called. You know, in Stormwind and Orgrimmar where you buy like monthly stuff with the traders tendies and stuff like that. A lot of pirate stuff was popping up on that like vendor. And essentially people were like, oh, okay, this is guaranteed like a pirate expansion. Next expansion then. People were so adamant that it was going to be a pirate expansion. I wasn't too sure because, I mean, that wouldn't make any sense. Like, if you go back in time, you've got Shadowlands, and then you've got... Wait, what's the one before Shadowlands? It was Battle for Azeroth, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm not missing any. Let me just go through these. Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, Legion, Battle for Azeroth. Yeah, and then Shadowlands. Yeah, I'm correct. So that was your pirate expansion. Battle for Azeroth was your pirate expansion because it's literally set on the seas. The whole point was doing naval forces and building up your naval forces to attack the Horde or attack the Alliance to get that sort of power with your faction. But it wouldn't make any sense. The whole feel of Borealis was pirate themed. The whole feel of, well, maybe not the Zandalari, but pretty much Borealis and, Coltirus as a whole was pirate themed. You had witches in the woods, you had, your storm songs where they guide the ships and all of that shit. But, that was your pirate expansion. They're not going to do that again. It wouldn't be smart to do that again. It makes no sense. So I think this is just more of a meta joke to say, oh, no, there is Pirate Sea. You can see it right there, but they're obviously not going to do anything with it. I think it is just more of a meta joke and saying, yep, there's your pirates right there. Now, this is the big one for me. This is the one that I'm really looking forward to. It's not Season 4, but between that pirate flag and Season 4, there is the War Within Alpha. And that is so soon. That is a lot sooner than I expected. So what they're hoping to do with the War Within Alpha, they're hoping to have all of the hero talents, playable or testable, I should say, which will be really cool to see. And I am very curious at how you get into the Alpha, because they did a sign-up thing for Cataclysm, like a beta test for Cataclysm, but I don't think I saw one for the War Within. I could be wrong, could be completely wrong, but from what I've seen, I don't think there is one. They might just pick out of random people's accounts who's been there longest or who's been most active recently, stuff like that. But the War Within Alpha being in late winter, early springtime, from what I'm looking at, is when they're looking to release it, is incredibly good. Because when we would usually get a alpha for the newest expansion would be around April, maybe May time. And then you get the beta in a few months after, kind of in August, September. And then the release is November, December kind of deal for expansion releases. But the War Within Alpha being this early means that the beta is in between spring and summer. So late spring, early summer, so around about May time, which is really, really good. That's about a few months before we would usually get it, from my recollection anyway. And then that means that a few months later, that's generally when the expansion will release. So we're looking at a late summer, early autumn release, which is fucking amazing, if I do say so myself. That would mean around August, September time, we're looking at a release of the newest expansion, which is absolutely incredible. That's a few months before we would generally expect it, which means that they would be on schedule for what they promised. It would be quicker expansion releases. So the next one will be in a year and a half's time, potentially, rather than 2 years. So it would be more around sort of the early 2026 mark, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that, if my maths is correct. But it would be really cool to see, because that way we're not always oh, okay, well, it's released in November. Oh, it's a November release. Oh, it's a December release this time. You're not waiting for the end of the year. It's very much, this is how your year is going to start, potentially, in a new expansion. And it would be really cool to see. Now, a lot of people are also wondering about Time Running Pandemonium, that comes before the War Within beta. Now, what this is, it's in the patch called Dark Heart, and it is 10.2.7. It is Time Running Pandemonium. No one knows what this is. Now, my guess is you can run every single dungeon in the game, in a time walking event, maybe. Maybe that's a new bonus event, actually. Instead of just Burning Crusade Time Walking, it is every single expansion time walking. You could do whichever dungeons you want. Maybe that's it, because you're going to get to a point where there's so many expansions that you're going to be waiting about 3 months before the next time walking that you want comes around, because obviously every couple of weeks it goes, like Burning Crusade Time Walking's this week. In a couple of weeks it'll be Wrath of the Lich King. In a couple of weeks it'll be Cataclysm. A couple of weeks it'll be Mists of Pandaria, etc., etc., until you get back round to Burning Crusade, which will be 2-3 months, which isn't great. It might be every week that they do like the time walking stuff, but I don't think there's a set. No, there is a set roster for it, but that's what my guess is. The Pandemonium is all of the time walkings opened up, because that way everyone can just splash their time walking badges essentially wherever they want, and they don't have to wait for months on end to come back to that time walking event that they really want, because they might not be able to. Let's face it, they might be away on holiday or something, or their sub might have ran out and they just can't pay it, that kind of deal. So I think that's what it will be, but I don't think it will be anything more than that. We'll just have to wait and see with it. But look, it's really, really good, the roadmap. The best part about this is the fact that they're giving us communication with this, because we can clearly see what the intentions are and when they're intending to release certain things. And we have never had that sort of communication in the past, maybe back in Legion, but that's about it. But this is really, really good. It keeps the player base in the know-how, and it gives them a sort of time limit on, okay, well, we said summer and autumn. We might have to push this back to get it perfect, but that's okay. I suspect that it might get pushed back as well. There's that tiny part of me that's thinking, oh yeah, it probably will. But if it does, it is what it is. As long as we've gotten the betas and the alphas before that, and we've tested them, and we could see that it was a bit broken, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, kind of makes sense. But hey, it is what it is. We'll just have to wait and see with it. The part that I'm looking forward to the most, honestly, is the alpha and beta versions of the War Within. Out of the roadmap, like for retail, the alpha and beta versions are the ones that I'm looking forward to. They're always fun to see, because a new expansion is always so fun to like dive into. Always has been, always will be. And I'm not going to lie, the alpha and beta versions are pretty clean most of the time. There's a few things that are a bit wonky, as per usual. There's a few bugs and stuff, but they are relatively clean from what I understand and have done and have played in the past, I should say. So here's hoping they'll be clean enough for the actual release of the War Within being released in the summer/autumn time, which would be really cool. I'm not going to lie, my least favourite part about this, probably Season 4, because there's not really much happening in early spring, Season 4. The only thing is it's a different PvP season, and the glad mount for the PvP season is something that I really want, and I will probably be going for, but Season 4 doesn't offer much. The raids revisited, which is really cool. That's the time walking that they did back in Shadowlands. That was one of the positives of Shadowlands, to be honest, where each raid has a rotation, essentially. So that raid will be good for the week, and it will give item level like 500 gear, we'll say. 500 gear is like the top item level, we'll say. And then next week, it will be the other raid that will drop 500 item level, so on and so forth, out of the 3 raids, which will be really cool. And it keeps the raids that they've done fresh and like being able to be utilized quite well. Now, the only other things in the Season 4 is a new Mythic season and open world rewards. Nothing too crazy. It's just a new season, so it's kind of a slow start. No, slow end to Dragonflight until you get that Dark Heart patch where it is Time Walking Pandemonium, stuff like that, Harbinger quests, the Heritage Armor, and the new holiday event. But again, this is going to be straight after the War Within Alpha, from what I see, the Season 4 stuff. So we'll all be hyped for the War Within Alpha. We'll finish that. Season 4 will be a bit of a dud, I'm not going to lie, because it's just new seasons of stuff. But the War Within Alpha will keep us going until that Dark Heart patch, and then the beta, and then so on and so forth. So those are my thoughts, or sort of least and most favourable parts of the roadmap for retail. But let's check out Classic. So Classic is a bit different. It's very simple, let's face it. You obviously have, at the end of wintertime, the Ruby Sanctum Raid comes out in less than a month for Wrath of the Lich King Classic. The Season of Discovery is actually going to be the next on the list. So it feels like Season of Discovery just came out, which it did about a month ago. But that will be what our next big sort of content is in World of Warcraft Classic. I'm classing Classic, Season of Discovery, Hardcore, all in Classic, by the way. This will introduce level 40, new runes, new PvP events, and Gnomeregon Raid. Now, we know that the new PvP events is in Stranglethorn. I cannot stress how much that place deserved the PvP event. It deserved the PvP event so much, and I'm glad that it's being held in Stranglethorn because it's such an iconic zone in Classic. It's definitely worth it to see it, essentially. Now, after this is something that I'm going to be a little bit excited for, actually. It is Cataclysm Classic Beta. Now, the beta I have signed up for, and you can too. You head to the Battle.net and follow the links there. Or Wowhead has links to the sign-up sheet for you if you want to go onto their website. But this is the one that I'm going to be most excited about because I get to test out classes and how they were. I don't remember Cataclysm a lot. I remember my first memories in World of Warcraft being in Wrath of the Lich King, more specifically killing the Lich King. But Cataclysm is sort of a blank slate for me. I can't remember it at all. And I'm not too sure why. I think it just didn't catch me as much as Wrath of the Lich King did. I really couldn't tell you. I really couldn't. So yeah, it's kind of like I'm going in blind with this, and it's really cool to see. It's going to be really cool, which is weird though, because I remember a lot of Mists of Pandaria, but not a lot of Cataclysm. But this is the one that I'm most excited about because I get to test out which classes I want to play, which ones look cool, which ones feel like I want to play them and stuff. And I know people are going to say Cataclysm Classic isn't Classic anymore. I mean, Season of Discovery is there for Classic. Hardcore is there for Classic. The Classic era servers are there for Classic. They will always just keep following in the expansion footsteps. Because why wouldn't they? Everyone wants to experience these expansions when they were. So if you started in Battle for Azeroth, this is always my go-to argument with it. If people started late in World of Warcraft, like Battle for Azeroth, Shadowlands, even Legion, why shouldn't them people be able to experience the expansions as they were? Because everyone else who played in these expansions did. And it was an experience, whether it be good or bad. People can make their own decisions on it. And I think a lot of people who realise or started playing WoW late on will realise that, this is kind of the turning point of where everything became a bit more clean, if that makes sense. Yes, it's a bit janky in, Wrath, a bit more in Burning Crusade, and Classic's very simple. It's a very watered down version of what World of Warcraft is right now. I do have to say that. But it is obviously the founding father of it, almost, is the best way to put it. And I think that people will actually enjoy Cataclysm more than they think, because you still have your niche aspects to classes. You have the eclipses for boomkins. You have the holy power for paladins. You have a lot of very specific things for each class, like warlocks get their soul shards now, that kind of deal. So they all still feel unique, these classes, but I think it's because the dungeons and the raids start to become a bit more like retail, and people don't like it. People want to simply stand in one place and press a one-button rotation, which isn't fun. Let's face it, that isn't fun. Going back into classic Molten Core, do you really want to stand there and just press Frostbolt? I get that some people might not enjoy the idea of having to press 20 buttons for a rotation, but to me it's just more engaging rather than that one Frostbolt rotation, that kind of deal. For others, a lot of people might just want to chill and find Classic a lot more chill, which I completely understand. But I think people are being a bit dramatic when it comes to, oh my god, Cataclysm's the end of Classic. It really isn't. It really isn't. Please, just give it a try before you make any sort of assumptions on it. And if you don't like it, there is always the option to go back to Classic, and that sounds really toxic, but there is the option to go back to Classic and play on Classic era servers, because they are there. They are there for people who want to stay and play in Classic. That's it. That's the whole reason for it. And, you have WoW, like, Classic Hardcore. You have the Season of Discovery stuff. It's all based in Classic World of Warcraft. So you have that there. I just ask that you don't judge Cataclysm like before you've even played it. I think it actually adds a lot of quality of life changes more so than anything else in the game, rather than, it's still a very good game and adds just quality of life rather than downgrading the game but still get quality of life, if that makes any sense. So this is the one that I'm most excited for, which is the Cataclysm beta, because I get to check out all the classes, specs, etc, etc. Season of Discovery actually comes out in mid-spring as well, the second or the third phase of Season of Discovery. The level 50, new runes and new raids, that's very cool. It's very cool to see how quickly the Season of Discovery will get its patches released, which I think is very, very good and something that should be happening, because sitting at level 25 isn't fun. Sitting at level 40 is not as bad. Level 50, you kind of just feel like, oh my god, get me to that level 60 mark. So level 60 will be coming out in summer. But before that, you obviously have Classic Cataclysm. This comes out in the summer of next year. So my guess, around July, somewhere like there, June, July, somewhere. With Season of Discovery level 60 being complete at that time, if you want to say that. And then you obviously have very quick releases for the phases for Cataclysm. So Cataclysm starts with 4 raids, 7 dungeons. These 4 raids were everything apart from Firelands and Dragon Soul. So you have like multiple, like 1 to 3 boss raids, Vortex Pinnacle, Baradin Hold, stuff like that. But they release content very quickly. So late summer, early autumn, you get Rise of the Zandalari, which is a filler patch. You get Zul'Gurub, which is a 5-man dungeon, and then you get Zulaman back, which is really, really cool. A nice little 10-man raid. And I think that's really cool. I like that they revamped these dungeons back in Cataclysm, and I think that it's good that they're putting it as its own separate patch, because these 2 instances are very iconic for different reasons. And then mid-autumn, you get Rage of the Firelands. I think what a lot of people are looking forward to be honest, because Firelands is a very, very iconic raid. More so than the end raid for the expansion, in my honest opinion. So there's no seeing where the Dragon Soul raid is at the moment. It cuts off at like mid to late-ish autumn, which ends with Season of Discovery endgame content updates. So maybe more dungeons, more raids, who knows? Maybe a heroic like version of the dungeons, like Stratholme, etc. But we'll see. So honestly, the biggest part about this is the Cataclysm stuff for me. Season of Discovery, it hasn't caught my interest. It's good. It is good, and I like what it does. But being at level 25, some classes are very gimped, essentially, on what they have. They do not have a lot of things at their disposal. A lot of spells are missing. Maybe at level 40 it's a bit better, in my opinion. But I can see why people enjoy it, because it's a different take on Classic, which is really, really good. But I do have to put in there, the spells that they add into Season of Discovery is basically just quality of life spells from other expansions. So why wouldn't Cataclysm be any good? Just ask yourself that while you think about it. But yeah, Cataclysm is obviously the go-to one for me, because that's where I spend a lot of time with like guildies and stuff, and it is what it is. But the least favourite part, in all honesty, the hardcore self-found mode, where it's you don't use a mailbox, auction house and stuff. The hardcore stuff has very much died down quite a bit, because I think a lot of people either got annoyed or, you know, just couldn't be bothered, because classic leveling is very slow. It is very slow, I do have to say that, and not everyone enjoys it. That's all it is. So that's not great, and it's not like, oh my god, finally, this is ridiculous. That should have been put into Hardcore WoW from the off, in my honest opinion. That shouldn't have been an addition. That should have been from the off, and just, yeah. It is what it is. But yeah, Hardcore mode, Season of Discovery are my least favourite there. But the Cataclysm stuff, I'm honestly looking so forward to, and I think that everyone else should kind of be on that same level, because it is a enjoyable expansion, but like, for people, a lot of the times that people don't enjoy Cataclysm is because of the people that they were with, like, back at that time. So a lot of people that I've said this in multiple like episodes, a lot of people that I'm playing with now in the guild, they didn't enjoy Cataclysm because their guild disbanded or their friends stopped playing. Some people just didn't like the way that, you know, the class at the time that they played was like changed. So healing wise, you actually had to like check your mana a little bit, although I think you had to do that pretty much all throughout WoW for healing, like the higher end content and stuff, PvP, Mythic raiding, etc. I think you still have like mana problems potentially, but you know, it is what it is. I think that it will be a lot better this time around. I think people will see it for what it actually is and gave us in terms of content wise, and I think people will respect the expansion rather than look down upon it, in my honest opinion. But that is it for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. As always, do check out all of the social medias down below, constant stuff happening on them. But thank you all very much once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.